There's a country that once controlled the richest trade network on Earth, a country through which gold, silk, and knowledge flowed centuries before Europe even knew what globalization was. And then it vanished for 25 years. Almost no one outside the region knew this country still existed. No tourists, no international businesses, no flights, borders sealed shut, and an economy completely cut off from the rest of the world. You'd think a country that disappears from the world stage for that long could never recover. But over the past few years, something strange has been happening. Foreign investors are coming back. Tourists are discovering cities that were closed for decades. And economists are now calling this country one of the fastest growing markets in all of Asia. How does a country with this much power completely disappear from the world's view, who kept it locked in isolation for decades? And why, after 25 years of silence, is the world suddenly choosing this country as its next destination? Keep watching, because the answer isn't just in the history. It's also in what's happening right now, beneath the surface, the golden age. To understand how this country disappeared, we first need to understand how powerful it once was. We're talking about Uzbekistan, a country in the heart of Central Asia, wedged between mountains, deserts, and steppe. Today, most people don't even know it exists, but 1,000 years ago, this was the beating heart of the Silk Road. Cities like Samarkand and Bokhara were the New York and London of their time. Caravans loaded with silk, spices, and precious stones passed through here on their way from China to Europe. Scholars, mathematicians, and astronomers gathered in these cities. Some of the most important scientific breakthroughs of the Middle Ages didn't come from Europe. They came from here. This wasn't some backwater region. This was the center of knowledge, trade, and power. But wealth always attracts two things: admiration and domination. The fall and the isolation. For centuries, rulers, empires, and borders changed. Mongols, local dynasties, and eventually the Russian Empire took control. But the real break came in the 20th century, when Uzbekistan became part of the Soviet Union. The Soviets built factories, roads, and an agricultural system centered on a single product: cotton. Entire rivers were diverted to irrigate cotton fields, a decision that would later cause one of the world's greatest ecological disasters, the disappearance of the Aral Sea. When the Soviet Union collapsed in 1991, Uzbekistan suddenly became independent. But instead of opening up, the opposite happened. The new government sealed the country off almost entirely. Strict visa rules, heavy state control over the economy, little press freedom. Traveling to and from the country became nearly impossible for foreigners. For the rest of the world, Uzbekistan simply dropped off the radar. No international media coverage, no major trade, no tourism. A country with one of the richest histories on Earth became a blank spot on the map for 25 years. The turning point. And then, around 2016, something happened that few people expected. A new leader came to power and began doing something that had been unthinkable for decades: opening the country up. Visa-free entry for dozens of countries. Currency reform, finally allowing foreign investors to do business normally. Privatization of state-owned companies. New trade agreements with neighboring countries that had barely had any contact for decades. The result? Foreign investment shot up. Tourism grew by double digits year after year. Cities like Samarkand, once forgotten, suddenly appeared on bucket lists of travelers worldwide. International companies started building factories for textiles, technology, and renewable energy. The country is now investing heavily in solar power, with one of the largest solar parks in Central Asia currently under construction. Economists now call Uzbekistan one of the fastest growing economies in the region, with growth rates Western countries can only dream of. From a closed-off, forgotten country to one of the most talked-about emerging markets in Asia in less than 10 years. It sounds like a perfect success story. But here's the twist. But before we get to the twist, there's one more piece of the puzzle. Because this comeback isn't just happening on the ground. It's happening in the middle of a much bigger global race. the new Silk Road. Here's what makes Uzbekistan's comeback so different from other emerging markets. It's not just growing on its own, it's being rebuilt into a global crossroads all over again. China has poured billions into new railway lines connecting Central Asia directly to its Belt and Road network, cutting shipping times between Asia and Europe dramatically. One planned rail corridor, running through Uzbekistan and Kyrgyzstan, has been called one of the most important infrastructure projects in Central Asia in decades. At the same time, brand new free economic zones have popped up across the country, offering tax breaks to lure foreign manufacturers away from more expensive markets. Tashkent, once a closed Soviet capital, now has a growing tech and startup scene, with young Uzbeks who studied abroad returning home to build companies instead of leaving for good. Even culturally, the country is rebranding itself. Samarkand and Bokhara are being restored and promoted as UNESCO heritage destinations, positioning Uzbekistan not just as an economy to invest in, but as a civilization to rediscover. In just a few years, Uzbekistan has gone from being erased off the map to becoming a physical bridge between two of the largest economic blocs on Earth, Europe and East Asia. It looks unstoppable. But here's the twist. This rapid opening and growth doesn't come without a price. The Aral Sea, once one of the largest lakes in the world, has now disappeared by more than 90%, a direct result of the very cotton industry that kept the economy running for decades. What was once water is now a desert full of toxic salt and dust, still affecting the health of millions of people in the region today. And the country's rapid economic opening is also attracting major foreign powers that aren't investing purely out of goodwill. Russia and China are both competing for influence in the country through infrastructure projects, energy contracts, and loans that sometimes create more dependence than independence. In other words, the country that spent decades trapped in self-imposed isolation now risks getting entangled in a new kind of dependency, this time between two world powers, both eager to claim a piece of this revived Silk Road nation. The comeback is real, the growth is real, but the question is no longer whether Uzbekistan will return to the world stage. The question is, who will actually benefit from that comeback? This is exactly why here at Atlas Aura we keep highlighting countries like this one, stories that most people have completely forgotten, but that shape the future of entire regions. If you've made it this far, let us know in the comments. Had you ever heard of Uzbekistan before this video? And do you think this country will manage to hold on to its independence? Or will it eventually get absorbed by bigger players? Like this video if you found it valuable, subscribe to Atlas Aura so you never miss an episode, and turn on notifications because the next forgotten nation is already waiting. See you in the next one.